How's everybody doing?
Living the dream, Allison, living the dream.
I know, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. I feel like I answer the same questions all day long. I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
I spent 4 hours in a hazmat suit today in the clinical area of the RVCC clinic. We did 113 people.
Oh my God.
It's a little hot.
I can just imagine.
That's right. Thursday is testing day, right?
Yep.
The calls I get are just incredulous. Somebody called me and said, oh, we're down in somewhere down south, North Carolina or something. And, we just went with like another family and they said they were being careful and our sons had a party and these girls came and, they were all playing beer pong. And now the girls say, they all tested positive 2 days ago for COVID nasal swab. And she's yelling at the girls. She's like, they're so stupid. What do I do? And what's the answer to that? Like get a brain transplant, read the news, don't have a party, don't let your kids be stupid. Like, I don't know I have to like bite my tongue all the time, because what you want to answer is not politically correct.
I mean, you can't tell people to see their proctologist to get an exam to find their brain.
Yeah, no.
Colin's trying not to laugh in his car. Hopefully he's not moving.
I'm not moving, but I am laughing.
It's like, I just don't even know what to say to that. I get off the phone and the receptionist is going, oh my God, they're so stupid.
We had a guy call us up and it was from a Board of Education, and this employee decided that they were going to go take a vacation to South Carolina last week. And the debate was, they realized that South Carolina was on the no-go zone. You have to
Yeah.
And he would quarantine at home, but he wanted the district to reimburse him the time he had to take to be at home. And it was like, no.
Well, today was the best call of all because one of the local private schools called me and said, so these rules like the 6 feet apart and the masks and stuff, that doesn't apply to preschool, right? And I'm like, no, it's the preschoolers I'm like, oh my God, I just don't even know what to say. Of course it applies to preschool.
Yeah, well,
Now trying to get the preschoolers to social distance, now that's something else. And wear their masks,
They
right?
can put carpet squares. I mean, they have to make some effort. If you're going to open, you have to
I
make some effort. As long as the kids are over 2, they can wear masks. Believe it or not, we get more grief from the teachers than we do from the kids wearing masks.
my wife works at Goddard in Branchburg, and she is one of the designated runners. So when she gets in at 7 o'clock in the morning, she helps shuttle the kids from the front door to their respective classroom. And then once all the kids are distributed, she keeps her mask on, she puts on her face shield, and she has a belt which has sanitizing solution in a spray bottle, paper towels, and
She looks like a superhero, probably.
And she just runs around the room, and all she does until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, until she comes home, is when a room goes out to like the steam room or the outside the
Right,
place,
she
she
goes
goes
and
into the room,
sprays it, yeah.
sanitizes. She's like the sanitizing tornado, just sanitizing everything. And then when they come back in, she goes and sanitizes doorknobs. All she does, sanitize and wash her hands all day.
I had somebody ask me today if they could wear one of those cones like the dogs wear, you know, like when your dog has surgery instead of a face mask. And I'm like, you know, I was like, oh my God, I just don't, you know, yeah, like that. The cone of shame, you know, when the dog does something stupid and has to go to the vet and get that. I
My
was
dog
like,
just had a surgery. That's why I have
I
this.
know, I'm like, what happens? I asked her, I'm like, what happens when you cough? Like, where does it go? And she goes, well, but the kids are shorter than me. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It goes in the air and then the air settles. So, I mean, you're having these conversations with grownups. You know, that's the sad part. Just wear the mask.
Oh,
You should stand in the supermarket, Larry, and watch the people. Like they have the mask is here, you know, it's hanging around their neck. It's like, I don't even know what to say.
Dr. Agathis, I was in a meeting with another doctor who was wearing the mask like, well, let's see if I can find the mask, like this.
Oh, yeah,
I believe it.
but everyone does.
And it was a doctor
Yeah.
whose name shall remain nameless, but Colin was in the same meeting with him last night.
Tell people all the time. I tell them, and then, you know, I was at the Pluck 'em Inn and they're pretty good. And the mask kept falling down. The guy kept going like this. I'm like, don't touch the mask. Pick
Yeah.
it up from your ear pieces, you know, get like a button and put it so you can, you know, there's like so many different ways that you can wear it if it's too, get a rubber band and tie, you know, tie it if it's too loose, but it's like, I don't need, you know, I feel like I'm turning into like not a nice person, you know, when you talk to these people.
okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Is Diane there?
I don't see her.
Yeah, I don't see her.
Really?
She's there. She's one of the Bedminster Township.
Oh,
Okay,
Okay.
so it's the official time. I think we ought to start this meeting and get it going. Call the meeting to order. And the next point of business would be the Open Public Meeting Act statement from Diane. We may be able to dispense with and
I could run down the hall and ask her to take herself off mute.
I think we can do it remotely. I just have to figure out how.
it doesn't look like she's on remote. There's no
No, I-
red on mine.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
thank you.
So Allison, we opened up the Adult Day Center,
Oh, you did. Good luck.
4
Oh,
people.
wow.
You should be okay. You know, if
Yeah.
everybody wears a mask and you do the hand sanitizing and everything.
Temperature taken, and it's really, there's like 3 staff and 4 people.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, but I went over today how the school, the private schools need to do drop off and pick up. You know,
Mhm.
like we're doing it like a bank teller
Yeah,
line with
yeah.
people taking temperatures. I told them the kids are not allowed to get out of the car until their temperature's taken. And then if they're over 100.4, they have to move the car upward so we don't have kids coming out that are sick and then we have to mix them with another cohort. So we reviewed that today up at Far Hills Country Day and Purnell and Kemp Place and
Yeah.
the public schools in Bernardsville are worried about getting supplies for isolation for the nurses. and I told them what you have to concentrate on is getting the kid out the door as fast as possible, not so much worrying about how to care for them while they're there. Just tell
Yeah.
them they have to come
Yeah.
within 30 minutes. They're all local.
Unless their parents are someplace.
Right.
in
Well,
the
that I
village,
said
but-
they have to get them to sign for a domestic guardian that can be
Yeah.
there for 30 minutes. If they're going to be in New York or something for the day, they have to designate a person to pick them up,
Yeah.
because we can't keep them in the public school. In the high school, in Bernardsville High
Yeah,
School,
no, I
we
agree.
can't do that. We only have one nurse there and a
Yeah.
floater.
Do they have one down at the middle school?
They have Suzanne Ryan at the middle school and
Oh,
Ann Connor
okay.
at the high school, and then I forget the two at the elementary school, but then they have like a floater, because initially they were leaving the nurse's office as uncovered at lunchtime, and I said, you can't do
Oh.
that because it's like a designated first aid, like emergency aid station. So
Yeah.
we're working on that.
Did you say, is it Ann Connor still there?
Yeah, she is. I don't know, when she retires, I'm going to retire from there. She's great.
Yeah, she
So-
really is. She was
Okay,
there when
can you
my
all
kids
hear
were
me
there.
now?
Yes,
Okay.
You can?
yep,
You can hear me?
All right, okay.
yes.
Can hear you.
So,
It's those little things.
All righty. Well,
Okay,
I started the meeting, Diane, and we're asking for the public statement.
okay. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Board of Health of the Township of Bedminster was sent to the Bernardsville News in Whippany and the Courier News in Bridgewater, New Jersey, and all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 15th, 2020.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Under new business, we have two. The first is coming back to us. It's Block 8.01, Lot 6 on Black River Road. And we had approved a septic system for that location. And I think I don't have all the correspondence in front of me, but I've read it. And the applicant is asking to relocate the bed after the approval of the original spot. So we'll hear that first. Is the engineer here for that application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm Steve Parker here representing the application tonight for the applicant.
Okay, Steve. Again, I think I introduced it, but could you explain why we're back here and what we're doing?
Yep, sure can. If just to remind the board, this was back before the board in December. And this is the property. Well, this was Bernie Davis's house. He doesn't live there anymore. He's moved. And at the time, there were several waivers, or a waiver given for the location of the septic system on this property. As the board is aware, it's a very small lot. It's about a half an acre in size. There's no way that we can get a septic system anywhere on the property that completely conforms to the Bedminster Township requirements. We have proposed this evening a plan that conforms with the state requirements, but not the Bedminster Township requirements. And just to remind the board, the last time we were here, the septic system there was only one waiver we were requesting, and that was for an 18-foot setback to a property line. If you're looking at the plan on the left-hand side, which is the north side. And in all other respects, the design conformed to the Bedminster Township requirements. However, the person who's purchasing the home or who's going to be living there happens to be, he's a local resident. A lot of people know Mike Bessis-Partis. He's Somerset Hills Towing. He's lived in the town for a while. He wants to stay here, and he bought the house from Mr. Davis. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to know if there's any way that he could get a little bit more room behind the house that would enable him to, expand the patio or have some room for a deck, or even just some other more additional play area. So he wants to see if we can push the septic system toward the back of the property, about 20 feet. So instead of having a 40-foot setback to the rear property line, it's going to have a 20-foot setback. What we're proposing is a 20-foot setback to the rear property line. So that's 40 feet, of course, is required. And from Bedminster Township, 10 feet is required for the state health code. So it's a new waiver. We're leaving the side yard setback the same at 18 feet. But we are proposing to push it back to 20 feet to give him more room in the backyard to just improve the back area of his house. So we've checked, there's no septic systems in the area behind this property. In fact, the properties behind this front on Southfield Drive, they're much bigger lots. The septic system on lot 15 is in fact in front of the house. The septic system on lot 14 is in the backyard, but it's probably, it's at least 50 or 60 feet from the back property line. So there's more than sufficient distance between the two septic systems on the adjoining properties. So that's really the extent of it. Other than that, the design, remains the same. It's, the septic tank, it's a pump system. Soil conditions are excellent. Mr. Kaczynski prepared a letter dated June 9th, 2020, and I think we can just go over that real quick. I think the first couple comments are just comments about the previous approval that was granted by the board. I failed to mention that there is no reserve area, so the board did waive that requirement the last time. We're still requesting that this time as well. I don't know if that has to be reapproved or not. But below that, comment number 1 says Form 1 submitted with the current application was not endorsed. The owner applicant current approval should be clarified for the board. My understanding is the arrangement between Mr. Davis and the new owner is that Mr. Davis is still handling this aspect of the transaction, but the new owner is the one who's requesting that he have the ability to have some more room. So I think my understanding is Mr. Davis is still the applicant here, but the new owner is making the request.
That should probably be clarified on the form though, because it says owner, Mr. Bernard Davis, so,
Okay.
Maybe he should just be listed as owner and sign it. And somehow, I don't know if you have another line for
Maybe what I could do, why don't I start with that one? I'll start with that one because we're talking then
Okay.
demoing, and I'll let tech support here, who was amazing.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get that clarified on the application form then. Form number
Okay.
1. No problem with that.
And different things
Number
to
2,
charge.
I think we talked about the septic system. No new testing is required for that. There's still the tests that we did out there are excellent. The soil conditions are very favorable for a septic system here.
Sorry, Steve.
But
I think we have to mute Allison.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So yeah, we're still relying on the same test that we did it before the last time. But I think we talked about the reason he wants to do this is just to give him some more room directly behind the house so that he can put a deck on or a patio. He doesn't have any immediate plans right now. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but he knows that once the septic goes in, he won't have an option after that.
Don't
So
you
we
want to move the tanks too?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, somebody else spoke. I was asking about the tanks. The tanks seem to be in the previously approved spot right
Yeah,
behind the house.
They're going to have to get pushed back as well. I think that I looked at that as well, and you're right. We would move those back a little bit further also, just to allow that extra space right there for, like I said, per patio or a deck or something like that. Comment number 3 is just the fact that we are requesting a waiver for a 20-foot setback to a property line where 40 feet is required by the Bedminster Code. And then the last comment says board members should confirm support of the previous relief granted by the board during the December hearing. And the relief granted was the setback for the 18 feet to the side property line, and then for the no reserve area as well. Those are the 2 that were granted by the board and are still the same as well this time. So that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Oh. You know what my first comment's going to be? It's obviously the ordinance on setbacks was set up by Bedminster to as something we wanted to practice in the township, and we have already approved an application that's got a 40-foot setback from the rear. Moving it for aesthetic or recreational purposes is something that is somewhat hard to deal with, at least on my part. We definitely need to poll the board members.
And I would certainly just add, I certainly understand that, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a somewhat unique situation, given the size of this property. It's about a half an acre. It's very small. The house is basically right in the middle of the lot. There's not a lot of, certainly on a 10-acre lot or a 5-acre lot, a 40-foot setback would be a lot easier. This is a little bit unique in that, the front of the property we tested is unsuitable for a septic. The only space that we have is in the back. Happens to be very good for what, for a septic system. But it just, in that location that's 40 feet back, it really leaves no room for any kind of improvements to the back part of the property. So yes,
Yeah, okay. You mean on the other side of the house, not, okay. I know what you mean, the backyard. Let's talk feet from the structure. I know there's a garage in there, but from the home itself, how many feet from the foundation is the existing system? That was approved.
okay. The one that was approved was, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure where we show it now, and then I'm going to subtract 20 feet because that's about what we moved it. So right now it's 65 feet away. That's what we're proposing tonight. So the one that was approved was about 45 feet away from the house, from the back part of the house.
And the plans are, well, there's no definite plans, but they want flexibility to build a deck or build a patio, or they're not thinking of a pool or anything like that, are they?
Right now, I don't believe he is. He mentioned to me a deck or a patio or some other improvements right behind the house. A pool would be difficult just because of the setback that's required between a pool and a septic field, 20 feet. But I don't know for sure. He didn't mention that to me. I think that would be very difficult given the septic tanks and the field itself. And again, the narrowness of this property. But it's very restricted right behind the home. There's just not a lot of room. And I think what happened was when we came here in December, I don't know that Mr. Davis had a buyer at that time. Now the new buyer, the new owner is looking at this and thinking, wow, if we go ahead and put that septic system in, then I really won't have an option to do anything. And he's hoping that he can get some relief here, and that he then will have an option to do either something else that would just give him more room. Because once that septic goes in, then it's just too late.
Okay, I'm going to ask Paul, our engineer, who comment on this. And if he feels free to defend our ordinance or any way he wants to approach it. But I want an opinion from Paul.
Well, clearly the system could be brought closer to conformance with the code by keeping it in the previously approved location. But certainly the lot poses some challenges. It's a lot that was created before the ordinance, obviously, because there's a hardship given the fact that the lot is only 75 feet wide and the setback requirement to a property line is 40 feet. So, this lot predates the ordinance. That being said, it is not as close to conformance as possible with the code, but the configuration and geometry of the lot certainly presents a hardship.
They don't have a lot of flexibility is what you're saying. And
My concern would be, any potential encroachment onto, lot 14 and 15 towards the rear of the property. There is 20 feet proposed, the state allows 10, but if that is in any way going to constrain a future alteration, for a new septic on lot 14 and 15, then I think that's, of concern.
okay, back to Steve. We're gonna probably ask for more exact dimensions from property lines to adjoining septics. You covered it, but you were a little vague as to which is normally true when we're talking about different properties. Your property is the one you're working on, designing for, and then you look over the fence and there's another property on Southfield. And granted, the lots are bigger on Southfield, but we're asking now, how does this affect everything? When it moves, what's the impact on the other lots? And we'll start with the one right behind it. And we'd like the answer in feet or other information that would satisfy us that if we move this 25 feet toward the Southfield property line, is it going to have a negative impact? They're all Bedminster Township residents, and we respect them as much as we do any applicant.
Right, yeah, and so I actually was out at those properties today, and to verify exactly where they were located. So lot 15, their septic system is in the front yard. So it's at least 200 feet away from this property line, the rear property line. In fact, I'm going to look at the tax map here. I would say it's at least 300 feet away. From
300, okay.
Yeah. On lot 14, I actually met with the owner, and I didn't get her name. She was a very nice woman. She took me out in the backyard and showed me in the backyard where her field was located. She's got a septic tank right behind the house. And then she said she has 3 laterals that extend out. And so, by the way, between this property line, the rear property line of this property, and her lawn, there's about 50 feet of woods back there that separate, the 2 areas. And her septic field was in the grass area directly behind the house. So it was at least 70 feet away from the property line. The closest point of her septic system was at least 70 feet away from the property line. So I think, and we talked a little bit about soil conditions, and she mentioned she was actually the original owner of the home, and she mentioned the fact that the soil conditions out there were similar to what we had here. That is very sandy soil, very gravelly type soil. So I think in the future, if that system does need to be replaced, the question is going to be, of course, is there somewhere on that property that you can put a septic system that still maintains the minimum 50-foot separation between septic systems on adjoining properties? And the answer to that is very easily could. There's no question about it. I don't think it'll have any impact at all or impingement on her putting a new septic system on that property. It won't have any impact at all. So I don't see that as being a problem on lot 14 or 15 for that matter. Because I think, eventually both lots 14 and 15 at some point in time will need to replace those systems. And they can certainly do it, probably almost anywhere out there on their lot, and have a 50-foot separation between the septic system here and the one on their property.
What is a reasonable I'm trying to think. If a patio were put on at the beginning of the foundation and extended out, most patios are what, Steve? I mean, they're smaller houses. I mean, you don't
Right.
have an immense patio for a smaller house. How many feet would you say a normal patio would be from the foundation?
Yeah.
If
You
you were
know,
designing one?
yeah, yeah. I would think something that's, 25 by 25 is probably, suitable for the back of a house like this. A little over, 500 square feet. I think that's probably, a decent sized patio.
So that would be minus, that would be, so we have 20 feet. You have 45 feet now, right?
No, right now what we're proposing tonight is 65.
Yeah, I know, but you have 45 feet now.
Yes,
That's what we approved, 45
Yes.
feet.
Yep.
Now, if we put a patio on, we're going out 25 feet, that's probably the max, which leaves 20 feet. I'm going to open it up to board members. Maybe we could split the difference, or I don't want to push this to the limit. First of all, I don't like to get into the ordinance and its intent to have setbacks and then say, okay, I mean, we're going to build something else, so we're going to toss part of the ordinance, or we're going to be very lenient toward the ordinance. Your talking point is regarding, or Paul, not Paul, Joe.
I know what you meant.
That these are all lots. I mean, right, Joe? I mean,
Yeah, the other
this
thing I'd
lot
like
was
to point
here
out.
before our ordinance said 40 feet.
Sure. Yeah,
Right.
it would be
You
impossible to put a
made
septic
the
on
best
this lot.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be impossible to put a septic system on this lot in accordance with the code. The other thing I wanted to offer for the board to consider is there is no separation distance requirement between a disposal area and a patio. So, depending on how large of a patio the applicant or owner is looking for, it's not like a driveway. There's a stipulation in the ordinance that a septic disposal area needs to be a minimum of 10 feet from a driveway. There's nothing in the state or township code that requires a given separation distance between a patio and disposal area.
So it can be as far or as small as they want it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to keep the septic disposal area free of encroachments, of course, but that's just something to consider.
So if he was saying right now, which he's not, I want to build a patio, and we're saying a patio is probably 25 feet from the foundation of the house. Now we have 20 feet beyond that.
And we want to fit that in that space, in that 20 feet, we put the tanks, the tanks would probably go in there and fill up that space. Because while you can put tanks under the patio, it's not always the best idea to do that. It's always best.
No. So we're going to assume it's a patio. We don't know what it is. We're not sure it's ever going to happen, but now we're envisioning a 25 feet out. That's the patio. Now, then we have another 20 feet to the proposed system, correct, Steve?
That's correct.
And you're saying that the tanks might go in that 20-foot span?
Correct. Most likely, yes. Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense then, to provide some room for a patio, so you don't have the tanks within the patio.
All right. I think we have some reasoning. Allison, are you on? Okay, other board members. Colin, what about from the township's end of it? How do you feel about this? Is Colin on?
We lost everyone. Where'd they go?
Everybody bailed. we're not gonna have enough to vote with. I mean, somebody's gotta come back here.
We're just, Allison's the only one that, who's the other person that can vote?
Vincent,
And Gus.
Yeah.
Hey, Vince,
how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing good.
All right. What do you think? What do you think about this, Vince?
I'm comfortable with moving it, and I understand your stipulation about does it need the whole 20 feet. My thought on it is that, this is a pre-existing property that doesn't really fall into the alignments of the way the town has done it now. But you want to make it a saleable lot. You want to make it a livable lot so people can enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I agree with your assessment, and I would say that if it's within our means to give him the full 20 feet that he's looking, then I don't have a problem with it. If you feel that you'd rather it be 10 as opposed to the additional 20, I wouldn't have a problem with that either, but I think we should allow him to set it back.
Okay. I think that Steve gave us some good testimony. And Steve, thank you for actually talking to the adjacent lot owners. I mean, a lot of times this doesn't happen. And we're just guessing about other lots and where everything is. Hey, Marie, what do you
Yes,
think?
I agree with Vincent.
Okay. So we have
Yeah, I mean, I think you want the lot to be utilized and,
oh yeah, we want everyone to enjoy their property,
yeah.
but live within the bounds
Yeah.
of our regulations. Okay, Allison is off.
Al, can you hear me? Al?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Pete Giannetti here.
Hey, Pete, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Allison's back.
Okay.
Yes, I'm back.
I couldn't see your picture, Pete. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Have you been listening?
I have. I
Okay.
have.
What do you think?
Well, I'll concur with what Vince had to say. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Okay. And I'm going to have to say it makes sense to me too. So I think we have a consensus of opinion. Don't like to do it, so you had to come back this way. It's kind of pushing the ordinance to slim it, but we want everyone to enjoy their property. I don't think there's going to be any negative side effects from the testimony given by Steve Parker. So, Diana, you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You've been listening, right?
I have been.
Okay. Now, we have enough for a vote, so.
Do we have any public online?
Okay, open it up to public comment. Can't tell if there's any public out there.
I don't see any public.
Okay, they're not allowed in, the door's locked. How are they gonna get in there?
Okay, so,
Is Colin still with us?
no, I think Colin dropped out.
Okay. All right,
And
we
the
have enough.
mayor dropped out.
Okay, Tim, I guess what we're gonna do is, somebody's gonna make a motion for approval to move it for a 20-foot separation.
Yes, the one thing I do want to mention is that from viewing the map, there are similarly sized lots in this area. And, you're going to, in some ways, you're going to have to treat other similarly sized lots with as much latitude as you're providing here. So I'm just looking at the key map, and it looks like at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 5 similarly sized lots. I don't know the neighborhood. Steve may know it, and then that I just want there's going to be some precedent that because of the squeeze on these size lots, the Board of Health is going to have to at least consider some exercising the same latitude on similarly sized properties just in this area if the same considerations apply. That is just that is the only negative from a legal standpoint. This certainly doesn't have anything to do with engineering or anything else, but that you just
Yeah,
want to
that's
be aware of that.
exactly why I was reluctant. You can't, I mean, we have the ordinance and again,
As a negative, I think each of these issues are going to come up in and of themselves. And that's what we're here as board members to take a listen and hear what's going on and to see the depth of work that the engineers do when they check the other properties, which was
Right.
done properly in this situation. Mr. Parker came fully prepared. He gave us all the information that we needed to make a good decision. And hopefully down the road, others will do the very same, which will enable us to make that same favorable decision for them. We're here for the town and also for the townspeople. So we want to make sure that the person who's buying this gets a good use of the lot, do what they would like on, live happily on, and also we want to make sure they don't impinge on the other neighbors. And based on what so far, that's what's going on.
so basically, Tim, we're not setting something we can't retreat from. In other words, if the adjacent lot tomorrow needed a septic and they wanted to do something like this, we would not necessarily have to relinquish and do it. We could hear it and deny it, or we could, as an autonomous board, we could act in accordance to what we decide, correct?
Absolutely. What you would do is you would have to look at each lot as they are presented. And this has been a good presentation, but I do want to point out that similarly situated lots, similarly sized lots, which you definitely do. I mean, because I can see it on the map, that you're going to have very similar applications for waivers. I think it is not a problem for the board. I mean, as long as the board is satisfied that the merits of this application warrant a waiver from restrictions, you are allowed to do it. But when we talk about whether things are unique, that's the only, the caveat that I had is that I don't know this neighborhood. I can only look at a map where I see there are about 5 very similarly sized lots where you're going to have there's not going to be any ability to fit conforming septic fields on those properties either. So as long as you know that this is something that will be likely to come up at some other time, at some future time, then there's no impediment whatsoever. As long as you're looking at the application, you're looking at what the merits of why a waiver is requested, and if you're satisfied, if the board is satisfied generally that this type of relief is warranted given this application, then no, the board definitely has the discretion to grant these waivers, just as it did in December.
Okay. All righty, Tim. Thank you. Do I hear a motion for approval of the application and the setbacks?
I motion forward.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, Diane, we'll go for a vote.
Okay, Chairman Fisher,
Aye.
Dr. Agathis,
No.
Ms. Berber,
Could,
Yes.
okay.
Mr. Najera,
Yes.
Mr. DiMartino,
Yes.
Mr. Giannetti,
Aye.
okay.
I mean, it's enough to pass. I understand I'm the dissenter, but the thing is, then what's the point of having an ordinance if every time somebody wants to make their patio bigger, you're just going to waive it? Like, then you should change the ordinance to be not effective if your lot is less than half an acre. Like you should have a different ordinance for smaller lots, but you can't have an ordinance and then every time it's a small lot, you're going to change it, because I'm sure that there's other people who previously said, oh, I can't make my patio bigger because it's just this. And then they say, well, now I guess I should have just gone to the board and asked for them to bend the rules for me too. I just don't think it's fair to the other residents of the town. When you buy a lot that's a certain size, you have to conform within the size. It's not like it's a broken septic system and they can't replace a septic system unless we waive the ordinance. So my feeling is if that's the way it is and we're going to have this arise over and over again, then you should think about changing the ordinance so that you say 10 feet is enough for lots less than half an acre. But I think it's silly to have an ordinance and then every time somebody wants to make their patio bigger, we just decide, okay, never mind. You know, I just think it's silly. Like you guys spend a lot of time coming up with the rationale for these ordinances. And, you know, this is a silly reason to waive an ordinance. I understand. And if I was the property owner, maybe there's some other kind of septic system they can put in where they can use a smaller amount of the lot size. I don't know. But I'm just saying that my point is to be the dissenter, even though I know that it wouldn't change the outcome, is that if that's the way you guys feel, then you should change the ordinance so that lots under half an acre have a different set of regulation, you know, different set of township ordinances. And then it won't arise every time. And we have to cherry pick whether we think this person made a good argument or not. You know what I'm saying, Tim?
No, I know what you're saying. And the one way to approach it would be to tweak the ordinance. But I honestly think that in some ways, the concept of the waiver and the thought process that the board puts into whether it's going to grant a waiver does provide certain safeguards. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But
okay. I mean, I just feel bad for people in the past who were rule followers. And now, you know, because this person wants to make I don't even know who the person is. So it's not an individual decision. It's just based on, you know, this person wants to make their patio bigger. Well, maybe the person who put in their patio last year couldn't make it bigger because of, you know, they were a rule follower. And they said, well, I should have just asked to break the rule and then that would have been fine for me too. So that's where I have the problem with these. And again, I wasn't, you know, there when the original ordinance, when the rationale was decided to be, you know, 20 feet or 40 feet or whatever, 40 feet. But you know, if maybe we need to take a look at it and say, the town needs to take a look at it and say, you know, lots under half an acre or special circumstance, maybe there's no space for a 40-foot setback. I don't know.
Well, the patio also is hypothetical.
I hate to think of going back and doing that, but I think at this point in time, having encountered this as an application, we may want to do that. We need to be fair to all people. Okay. So basically,
these systems are going to fail sometime in the future. So this may come up again and again, as Tim said, you know, this whole neighborhood is smaller lots and there's other neighborhoods in town that also have smaller lots. And so if this is going to come up on a regular basis, I don't want it to be like whose engineer made the best argument. You know, it's not, people pay more money for a better engineer and then you can do whatever you want, whatever the town says. You know, that's the part. And I love Steve Parker. It's nothing to do with him, or I don't even know the applicant, but the point is, like, if you're going to change if you're going to say that all these small lots require special circumstance, then you should just change the ordinance and, you know, reword it to do it on a different basis. So that, as I said, I don't want to take up any more time. I mean, it passed. I knew I was going to be the dissenter, but that's just how I think it takes the teeth out of all your regulations. If you're going to, you know, if people can just come and say, well, I really want a bigger patio. You know, it's not that my septic doesn't fit or there's a health concern or there's spotted turtles or something that, you know, is an objective factoid. This is just, you know, in case they want to make their patio bigger. Well, you know, you kind of knew that when you bought the lot. So I don't know.
Got a good point, Alice.
Okay.
But again, Tim, we're not locked into this. I mean, we're not doing something tonight that's going to affect us for all applications. We still have the right to.
There is a waiver process that has been properly exercised. I think the board has articulated the basis for granting the waiver. And as long as the board looks at every application even-handedly, and if it decides that these waivers have to be granted a little more liberally on very small lots, then that's fine. So as long as each lot is given a fair process, then no, this is not binding. But it's just that as long as everybody understands that what you're going to be dealing with is not something that is a one-time deal. Just looking at the map here, it's not going to be a unique situation. I can certainly talk to Joe about whether there are other municipalities that have very similar situations where they have large, very large lots and very small lots, and they do have setback requirements that change depending upon the size of the lot.
Right.
But for now, the waiver process is available, and it does work. And as long as the board has listened to the presentation, looked at the unique circumstances that have been presented to it, and makes a considered ruling. And no, it doesn't really have a binding precedent at all. But there are going to be other lot owners who have similar set of circumstances that I think are going to hope that they get the same sort of consideration.
Well, I think with this board, and I think you know, Tim, they will.
I do. No, I that's why one of the things I am saying is that Joe and I can look at things if there is an ordinance scheme in other municipalities that address this type of situation. But frankly, I just think that if you have a it's a prudent board, which I believe this one is, that the waiver process is not the worst way to go by any means. I think,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. All righty. So we have a passing vote. Basically, we're Diana, we're done. We voted.
Yes, we have the vote. We're finished.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night, Steve.
Bye, Steve.
Okay, the second item of new business is a revision to Lot 12. This is part of the major subdivision plans for Block 39, lots 12, 15, 21, and the address is 1320 Lamington Road, 20 and 30 Lamington Road, Bedminster Farms.
Good evening, Chairman Fisher, rest of the board. Good evening. Matt Draheim with Gladstone Design, representing the applicant 1310 Lamington LLC. So we're here tonight to revise the application for major subdivision approval on the septic disposal field locations for proposed lot 12.06 as part of the major subdivision. This board will recall back in May, you approved 5 of the 6 lots that were proposed on lot 12. The one lot being 1206 that was not approved due to separation distance from the disposal field to a water course. The water course in this case was freshwater wetlands. So we took that we took the denial from the board in May, and in June went out and did some additional testing on proposed lot 1206 and located areas of primary and reserve disposal field locations that were outside of the required setbacks from a water course, and complied with the remainder of the setbacks as outlaid in the Bedminster Township ordinance for setbacks from property lines, from water courses, from structures, and from roadways. So little brief overview of what we found when we went out there. We located 3 areas, 3 soil log locations that were located approximately 115 feet from the freshwater wetlands at the nearest point of the soils testing. Each of those soil logs was consistent with the previous findings, most of it being the underlying shale that we have on this side of this part of the Bedminster. And similarly to the previous soil logs that were found on lot 1206, there was groundwater encountered down at the lower portion of the soil logs. That groundwater that was found was greater than 12 inches in depth. So we did perform pit bail testing on those soil logs, and those pit bail tests yielded results that were suitable for both primary and reserve septic disposal location. And again, those soil logs at the closest location was 113.5 feet, and the other 2 were in excess of 115 feet from the freshwater wetlands. If you're looking at the plan, we have this depicted. We've depicted the disposal field located as far away as possible from the freshwater wetlands. So we're holding the required setback, or the required distance of 15 feet from the soil log locations. Now, again, these are just conceptual locations, or conceptual disposal field designs. Each of the lots will have to come back before this board prior to construction of an actual disposal field for a detailed design. So again, just as in last time, we're here tonight to strictly approve soil logs and the locations of the soil logs, and not the actual design of the system. It was noted in both. Sorry, was there? No. It was noted in both Mr. Beck and Mr. Kaczynski's review letter regarding the difference in lots as previously shown. On this application, you may notice that we're showing this proposed lot 1206 as future lot 1206, and lot 1207, it has 2 lot numbers, future lot 1207 and a new lot 1207. So the reasoning behind this was so that we could continue along with the land use board process. The land use board was not going to hear the application unless we agreed to combine lot 1206 with lot 1207. But in doing so, we reserved the right to further subdivide lot 1207 into a future lot. So future lot 1206 and future lot 1207 are shown no differently than they were under the previous application. The lot sizes remain the same as they were under the last time the board saw this. The lot lines remain in the same location for the future lot line between lot 1206 and lot 1207. The only thing that is different, that is being shown that's different, is that lot 1206 and lot 1207 were combined for the land use board process, so that we can continue along, since we had not received approval of septic location on 1206. So that's the reasoning behind the difference in lots that are being shown on the plan.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
thing is that if we add future lot 1207 and future lot 1206, that all adds up to that new lot 1207?
That adds up to 27.668.
Okay.
Yep.
It was a lot simpler than I thought, because I had no idea what was going on there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, thank you. I think I understood, but Paul, you on board with this? I'm sorry, I keep, Joe, are you on board?
But I know what
with-
you mean every time you say it, and
I
I did
know,
discuss it with
you
Paul.
work for Paul, but you're Joe.
No,
You
but
you do all the work. Yeah.
I did talk to Paul, and that is the exact reason why they omitted that lot line temporarily, because the planning board process was moving forward. They didn't have approved soil logs. So, yeah, I have no problem with the testing. This is what we discussed at the last meeting. that we hoped, would work out for the applicant. And, the soil suitability tests were successful. It looks like it's a fully
Yeah.
conforming lot.
When we had the application, when we finally, finished up with it, that was in my mind. Why don't they go back tomorrow and do the soil logs? And make it
I
so
suspected
simple?
they were going to have a problem with the planning board, and
Okay,
I guess they did, so.
all right.
And we would have been back here in June, but yeah, we had tested a little bit before your June meeting, and you had already canceled that. So now we're here,
Alrighty.
and we appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, now, board members, I'm not sure everybody heard the application the last time it came through for the other lots, but what we're talking about tonight has been dealt with, and it's a buildable lot, and the setbacks are now within the ordinance. So I don't see any problem. I think we're in a position to approve it. We've heard most of the engineering details during the last session we had for this application. Comments? Hey, Marie. Okay, do you agree?
I do agree. I think they went and did exactly what we asked, so. from the last
Okay.
meeting.
All right, other board members, Pete, Vince, I think Vince has his microphone off. I see a red through your microphone.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry about that. I said I agree.
Okay, did you hear that? Were you present when we approved the other lots?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah, he did exactly what we asked him to relocate.
Exactly, okay. Marie agrees, you agree. Hey, Pete, wherever you are. Allison?
Yes, it's fine. That's exactly what we asked for.
I'm here.
Okay, all righty,
I'm here.
okay. So I think it's pretty clear cut with the engineering work done, and you're ready to approve the lot, add it to the others.
I
So,
move,
go ahead,
I said, I move to do that.
okay? Is a
We
second?
have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. All righty, Chairman Fisher,
Yes,
Dr. Agathis,
Yes.
Ms. Berber,
Yes.
Mr. Najera,
Yes.
Mr. DiMartino,
Yes.
and Mr. Gianetti.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time this evening.
okay, thank you, Matt.
All right.
Take it easy, Matt.
We'll see you around.
Okay, we're moving on, and we have the minutes from the May 21st meeting to approve. And Diane, you did a good job. I've reviewed them, and I don't see any additions or corrections, so if no one else does, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, we don't want to hold you up. I know you have long days. So why doesn't Jim Nadralis lead us off in reports?
Well, in case anyone's been living under a rock for the past 6 months, we're still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've been doing weekly testing at RVCC for county residents. We have contact tracing up working at the county. We have been assigned 5 students from Rutgers that the county's coordinating to do contact tracing to assist the rest of the county health departments or health departments in the county to be able, in addition to our 3 nursing staff. I know everybody's been bombarded by political opinions and Twitter and all the other stuff. So I'll spare anybody that particular rumination. I've been working a lot with boards of education and trying to sit in on conference calls. In fact, since it's after technically 8 o'clock, I'm now on my 5th hour of conference calls today with various boards of education on back to school plans for how they're going to operate. We've been approached by the YMCA, we've been approached by daycare centers, we've been approached by a private school. So we're getting a lot of questions, and at least at this particular point in the middle of July, we're still waiting for decent guidance on a lot of things from the state DOH and DOE. You know, they have the original back to the road back plan, but there's an awful lot of specifics that aren't addressed in it. And the questions are coming out of the woodwork from teachers, from aides, from parents, and they range from the sublime to the absurd. Everything from, you know, if a person travels to North Carolina next week and has to come home, do they have to use sick time for their quarantine, or will the school district pay for their sick time? To how do you take, you know, do you take the temperatures of the kids before they get on the bus, after they get on the bus, before they get to school, after they get to school? How do you do it? It's a lot of details, and I'm not saying the plan is bad, because it's not. It's just an overarching general overview type of thing. Dr. Gathis, feel free. I'm sure you've probably read it.
The problem is that the people who make the rules aren't the ones who have to carry them out, you know, so, and I noticed that on the school health listserv, like the National School Health Listserv, the people who come up with the plans sometimes are like backroom people. And then, you know, the Department of Health and, you know, people like myself who is a school doctor for 6 schools, you know, you have to try to figure out exactly what Jim said, like how are they going to take the temperature? What kind of thermometer are they going to use? How are they going to disinfect the thermometer between each kid? If they use the thermoscan thermometers that don't touch their head, are they measuring skin temperature, or what happens in the winter when it's cold outside? You know, like there's so many things, and there's very little objective recommendation, you know, for the day-to-day from the CDC. Everything's like theoretical.
My longest call today was 2 hours plus with the Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education. They have 8,600 students in 11 schools, ranging from the Texas-style high school, which has 12 buildings spread over a quarter of a mile, to elementary schools, some of which have lots of space to do things, and some of which are right nestled off of main roads, where if you have more than 15 parents backing up, you're going to have cars back down on the 202, 206 to drop off their kids. So, and Bedminster has its own issues with its schools, and Franklin certainly has theirs. And the other 13 municipalities, their health officers are working with their boards of education.
Are they allowing buses? Are they allowing buses?
Most schools are, at this point, planning on using buses. Some of them are polling the parents to see that which ones would be willing or even able to transport their kids to school. But again, if you have one or two working parents, if you only have a single parent home and that parent has to work, you have no one to take your kid to school. If you're working in the city or in a large area of New Jersey where there's a lot of jobs and you're in a bedroom community, you may not have that option to have your kid be anything other than bused. Obviously, in a town like Bound Brook, where all the kids walk, less of an issue. But
well, the private schools, I think some of them have given up the busing. Far Day has given up the busing, so they're just going to have parents drop them off. The kids are going to be temperature checked before they step out of the car. The problem with the districts with the busing and the public schools with the busing is that, once the kid gets to school and they've identified as a fever, the whole bus has been exposed. Yeah. So now you almost have to check everybody's temperature on the bus before you let any of the kids in the building.
That's one of the issues that people are addressing. And if you have to
go on the bus and check the temperatures of everybody. And if one student has a fever, then there has to be, there's an issue of contact tracing from the bus itself. And you don't even know what that person has. They could have strep throat or an ear infection or something like that.
Or you could have parents that say their kids got to get to school, they pump them up with ibuprofen or Tylenol before they send them off the bus, and they don't spike a fever until afterwards.
They don't
So
even
even
have-
testing for fevers.
A lot of the kids are asymptomatic.
Yeah,
So they could present with COVID and they never had any fever.
These are the issues we wrestle with on a daily basis, and we're spending a lot of time on the phone calls. I know for every hour I'm on a phone call with, a member of the regulated community, so to speak. Dr. Reddy's probably on the phone 3 hours with the same, or with the freeholders, or with the governing officials, or with the administrators, or with insert
If
name.
you identify someone on the bus, what are you going to do with the other 30 kids on the bus?
Yeah.
You're going to send the bus back on the
Well,
route?
even looking at it from a standpoint to try and take care of that issue, if you temperature check them before they get on the bus, and if they have a fever, you turn them around and send them home.
Right, but that means they have to put somebody
does
on to check the temperature, because the driver, the driver's going to check the temperature. Like, who's going to do it?
Yeah, and then your bus ride is going to take, if it takes an extra 3 minutes to temperature check, a bus stop full of kids, now your bus ride, with 15 stops might take an extra half hour, 45 minutes. If you're a Branchburg resident and you're getting bused to Somerville, you're getting picked up at 6:45 in the morning as it is. You're going to pick up kids at 6:15. So again, the issues are legion, and they are, we're going to do the best with what we can, with what we have. Is not going to be perfect. But I expect lots of phone calls, lots of meetings, and lots of angry parents, and probably some angry teachers too. But we're doing the best with what we have.
I think for the most part, the schools are hoping to stay open till Thanksgiving. And then at Thanksgiving, there's some thought process that they're going to cancel all their October breaks, and holidays, and just do school. And then if they have to at Thanksgiving, when they combine flu and COVID, and we can't tell the difference of what people have, they're going to have to close. And I think the colleges are doing that. They've canceled their October breaks. They're not letting parents in the residential dormitories. So you're dropping your kid off and that's it. And nobody is allowed inside the buildings. And then they're keeping them cohorted, testing them when they arrive on campus. That's what the boarding schools are doing. And then waiting 2 weeks and mixing the pods after that. But, and then they're just going to send them home for Thanksgiving. But I don't think they're going to make it to Thanksgiving. I think all these schools are going to be closed in October.
Wow. That's
That's my prediction.
It'll work for us. So, Himanshi, if you want to give the details on the monthly report.
Sure. So it's basically, I inspected all the farmers market vendors with new COVID standards, provided consultation guidance document checklist, and inspected all the retail food for their outdoor seating with COVID-19 standards, provided consultation on all the youth camps, and inspected youth camps with those guidance. So we also had that in the guidance provided by the state, where they talked about how you're going to transport your children, and that was in one of their checklist point, where they had to make a decision if they were going to transport their kids, or they're going to, parents are going to drop off the kids at the site. And we did some pre-opening inspections for the pools. We only approved 3 so far. One is Fiddler's, Trump National, and at the Hills North Association. And we are also dealing with one of the septic repair complaint that we received for the first time with Joe. It's still not resolved yet, but we're in process.
Did anybody have any questions for us?
Thanks for all your work.
Thank you guys too.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim, you don't have anything else, right?
No,
Or
nothing.
Marcy? Okay. We appreciate your work and stay strong.
Thank you, sir.
library reopening. That
Oh,
would be next.
hello. I'm Marie Crenshaw. It says Clarence Dillon on the screen, but I'm not Clarence Dillon. I know that Colin gave you all our 4 stages of reopening at your last meeting, and there were some questions about that. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have about that and tell you what we're doing because the library is open. So I'm just going to go through, and I know you guys have had a very long meeting, so I'll try to be as quick as I can. The library closed on March 17th, and then 2 days later, the governor closed all libraries. We did open our book drop back on June 9th. We began curbside pickup on June 22nd. And this past Monday on July 13th, we did open the library. And I'm going to go through some of the steps we've taken, and I hope I can answer all of your questions. All employees are required to wear masks, and we provide them for them along with disinfecting wipes and hand sanitizers. All employee workstations are wiped down prior to shifts and also during shifts. Plexiglass shields have been installed at all the public service desks. Per the executive order, all patrons are required to wear masks as well. We also have extra masks in the library to provide to them if someone does not have one. The only problem we've had so far, we've had someone come in with a mask and then sit down at a computer and decide no one was sitting by him and he would just pull his mask down. And I found that now one of my jobs as library director is mask police as well. So I went right over and told him to put it back up, and he did. Social distancing, we have moved furniture around. We have made everything 6 feet apart. We have tape on the floor in front of our public service desk marked with 6 feet. So social distancing is very, very important in the library. Restroom use, I was asked about. The library has 4 public restrooms, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. We have closed off 1 restroom on each floor, so we just have 1 to keep clean during the day. And the 1 downstairs has touchless sinks. The 1 upstairs does not. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, good. So we are right now, we are cleaning frequently touched surfaces every 2 hours in the library. And we have a dedicated person who does that. We have a dedicated staff bathroom, and our employees are able to leave their stations at any time to use the bathroom to wash their hands. Even though we have hand sanitizer all over the library. We have stations set up. Outside of each library is a big red arrow pointing down hand sanitizer. We have big red arrows, hand sanitizer for wiping down, if you're a patron, to wipe down your computer and your mouse before you use it, even though we wipe them off during the day as well. One of my biggest concerns was getting enough PPE for us to be able to open. And for right now, we do have enough, but we're continuing to purchase that. The public computers have all been spaced out so that no one is sitting, everyone has to be sitting 6 feet apart from each other. We actually, the ones that aren't in use, besides the sign on them, we disconnected the keyboard so nobody can even use them if they want. We also bought disposable earbuds. We used to hand out headphones for people who asked for them. Now we're like the airplanes. We have the disposable earbuds that we hand out to people. Our professional cleaning service deep cleaned the library during our closure. And so they still come in several nights a week, and we have a custodian who wipes everything down first thing in the morning. All returned items to the library are quarantined for a minimum of 3 days and 72 hours, which means when they come in the library, they go into bins marked by a day, and they sit there for at least 3 days before they are even checked in. Let's see. If an employee is sick, our policy has always been, no matter what illness, you're sick, please stay home. There is never any problem with us for that. We're a very family-friendly place to work, and we encourage everyone to stay home sick. We have signs all over the place on doors about wearing masks and doing social distancing. Someone asked me about the entrances into the library. We have 3 entrances. 2 side entrances are both handicapped entrances. And then we have our main entrance. We don't see having to do one way into that. We really couldn't anyway, because if you're handicapped and your car is parked here, you're going to want to go back out that side entrance. You're not going to be able to go all the way around. One of the executive order requirements, and we're following the governor's executive order very, very closely, is that we can only have 25% of our building population in there at one time. So our building holds 200 people. So we are only allowed to have 50 people at a time in our building. And that's really not a problem for us. Foot traffic has been, as you might imagine, been pretty light. And we are continuing our curbside pickup. So a lot of people are taking advantage of that as well, just pulling up in front of the library. So far, so good. So if I take any questions from you all.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for an excellent presentation. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. And I don't have any questions. We'll open it up to other board members who may. We still on?
Marie, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Thank you. I was just saying, you can tell that you put a lot of thought and effort into the process and the procedures that you're following. So that's very much appreciated, the board.
Okay, well, I'd say keep up the good work and thank you for the report. And if there's anything we can do for you, please ask. Is my mic on or?
Yeah.
Yours,
Oh, okay, okay.
the library might have dropped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he dropped off.
Okay,
Yeah.
all righty. Okay, we'll move on. Let's see here. Medical marijuana.
Yeah, I have to get together with Allison, and we promise that we'll get this moving forward. Yeah.
Alrighty. In fact, that's going to take a lengthy discussion, but you just, as soon as you can put down the foundation for it, it would be good.
She's back muted.
Okay, Marie, you're muted. You have to unmute.
Unmute, and I'm not muted.
Okay. I think there's 2 Maries here.
Oh, there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like the library, we have 4 Maries and a Maria who work there. And we never know who we're talking to. I'm sorry about that. My Wi-Fi is not the best right now. But my one question to you all was, if someone on staff gets a confirmed COVID diagnosis, I'm assuming those things are reported to the Board of Health. Then would you come back to the library because you'd be tracing who they were with, correct?
Let's try and get Jim in on this also. Okay, Jim, did you hear that? The question?
The contact tracing gets done, but it also depends on where the person lives. So
Okay.
if the person lives in Warren, it depends on whether it's Bedminster residents are obviously covered by the county. Bernardsville residents are covered by the Berners Regional Health Commission, the Berners Regional Department. But yes, the process is the same. There is contact tracing, but we also have to be cognizant of HIPAA insurance,
Right,
privacy. law.
because they
So we
don't have
can't
to
just say,
tell
hey,
us.
Clarabelle was in here, now she's COVID positive, who she talked to. We
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. We can talk in generalities about an employee,
Right.
but,
Okay, because
we're
we have
hoping,
we have a lot of part-time employees. We have very few full-time employees. So it could be a very limited amount of employees that someone could come in contact with
Hmm.
during their workday. Are there any other questions I can answer for you about what we're doing at the library?
What are the hours, Marie?
Okay, we're actually open our regular summer hours, which are modified hours. We're open Monday through Thursday, 10 to 9, Saturday, 10 to 3, and we're closed Sundays.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll reevaluate after Labor Day when we would go back to longer hours on the weekend. We're getting very, very light foot traffic, which I expected. But we are continuing the curbside pickup. So a lot of people are using that, where they call us, tell us what they want. They pull up in front of the library. They say, we're here, and we run the item out to them. We can put it in their trunk, put it in their car, and they take off. Anything else?
Is there a computer site with a list of books or publications, or how do you choose what to take out curbside?
Yes, we have an online catalog on our website.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And people email us. They can email us with their requests, or they can call us with their requests. And I do even have people who just call me up and say, I need some books or I need some DVDs. And I say, what do you like to read? And they say, these are the kinds of things I like. And I put together a bag for them, and they take it. So we will help you any way we can to get you something to read. We also have ebooks, downloadable audiobooks and ebooks too, which have been very popular over the when we were closed.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. I think that's it.
Okay. I just want to say, I hope at some point I'll see you all, like some of you I do see in the library. I hope I see many of you there. And if you ever have any questions or concerns, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Diane, we're on to correspondence and almost at the end of the meeting. Do we have any I know you sent the list of correspondence.
Yes, yes.
I did not see anything on there I needed to ask you about, but anybody else? Well, is there anything in the correspondence we should be aware of?
Not particularly. No, it's just general items that will be filed in the lot and block files.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else? Paul, anything? Oh, I did it again. Joe. Hey, Joe.
It's only been 20 years almost, Al.
I know.
I'm just kidding. No, we don't have anything new.
Okay, Joe. Thank you for the good work you do.
Anytime.
For putting up with me. Okay. What I was going to ask about basically were the grease traps. Nothing new that we need to know about.
No, from last year, we were in good shape, so we don't have to worry about anything until, say, October.
Very good.
We'll send out notices in the fall.
Okay, Joe. Okay, anyone else have anything? Tim?
But the only thing that I can mention is that there was a situation on Cortlandt Lane with a hoarding situation, and there had been an inquiry made to me just because the neighborhood association was trying to determine what rights they had to remedy the situation. Just as a really quick update, the owner and occupant of that unit actually passed away in May, and as of now, the condominium association has petitioned the court to require the bank that holds it was actually in foreclosure, to clean up that unit, because it was, according to what had been told to me, in extremely bad condition. There were dogs and pets in there that were not being taken out. The owner clearly had some issues, but she passed away. And the current situation, as I understand it, is that there is an effort to clean out that unit, either with the assistance of the mortgage holder or the condominium association. But I do get feedback every once in a while from the attorney representing the condominium association, and right now it didn't seem as though there was any anything really the Board of Health could do at the time, especially since the occupant passed away. I think there might have been more of an issue when you had the occupant still in the unit and obviously not able to help herself and creating a health hazard for other people around there. So hopefully that is going to at least start remedying itself, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. All right, having no additional business, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hey,
Stay
thank you.
safe. Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Stay safe.
everybody.
Good night.
So long, everybody.
Good night.
Come on.